A deepening relationship. Russia and Iran are set to sign a 20-year strategic partnership agreement. So what's bringing the two countries closer together, and how will it affect the global order? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Imran Khan. Relations between Russia and Iran have strengthened since the start of the war in Ukraine. Tehran has supplied the Russian military with drones and short-range missiles. Now the two countries are cementing their alliance with a 20-year strategic partnership agreement. The deal is due to be signed later this week when the Iranian president visits Moscow. It's expected to enhance cooperation in defence, trade and technology. So, are the deepening relations driven by recent setbacks in their spheres of influence in countries like Syria? And how will this help them confront the US-led world order, which has imposed severe sanctions on them? We'll get to our guests in a moment, but first, this report from Michael Apple.
That's the sound of Iranian-made drones, fired by Russia, being used widely in its war in Ukraine. Tehran's supply of Shahed drones and even short-range ballistic missiles to Moscow has come to represent their expanding level of cooperation in recent years. And a new 20-year strategic partnership treaty is on the horizon.
This treaty, like, by the way, our treaty with North Korea, is not directed against any country.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian are expected to sign the agreement on Friday. Tehran's top diplomat Abbas Araghchi was quick to tell Russian state media that the comprehensive strategic partnership treaty doesn't set a goal of establishing a military alliance. Comments at a recent meeting between Putin and Pezeshkian in Turkmenistan hinted at a desire to solidify relations.
Our relations in the cultural, economic and social spheres are stronger and improving daily. To this end, and considering the will being shown by the Supreme Leader, we should see them becoming stronger.
The exact nature of the treaty, at least for now, is unclear. But media statements refer to the agreement covering all areas of cooperation in sectors including defense, energy, finance, transport, and more. The agreement with North Korea Lavrov mentioned was signed last year. It was essentially a new defense pact, and one that's seen at least 10,000 North Korean troops deployed to Russia. This new Russia-Iran treaty brings together two of the world's most heavily sanctioned nations. It comes on the eve of Donald Trump's return to the White House next week.
When I make promises, I keep them.
And follows new sanctions on Russia's oil sector by the outgoing Biden administration that surprised some.
This is definitely a shift in policy. In the last days of the Biden administration, we've seen, and the market has got very used to, the Biden White House always prioritizing avoiding disruption to oil supplies over the other political goals of putting pressure on Russia, putting pressure on Iran.
As global tensions rise, Russia, Iran, North Korea and China will likely continue to confront what they see as Western attempts to isolate and challenge them. Michael Apple, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Let's bring in our guests in Tehran. Hassan Ahmadian, professor of the University of Tehran. In Moscow, Vyacheslav Matuzov, a former Russian diplomat and chairman of the Russian Friendship Society with Arab countries. And in Munich, Marina, Miron, a postdoctoral researcher at the Defence Studies Department at King's College London. A warm welcome to you all. I'd like to start in Tehran first. This is a wide-ranging agreement, Hassan. It's also potentially a very long-lasting one. Why this agreement and why now?
Well, I think the agreement is basically to solidify the enhancing relationship between Iran and Russia and broaden the spectrum the two countries are working on. Of course, economics and trade is front and center, though other aspects are included. both countries are under immense sanctions, and I think this is to basically alleviate some of the pressure they are under and to enhance the tie based on their economic situation and also, of course, defense capabilities, etc. The agreement, it seems, addresses a wide range of issues between the two countries, and I think it comes in a time where the West, the collective West, generally is eyeing the two countries as the other, the enemy, if you like. And we have Trump coming back to the White House, though I think the discussions on this agreement started years ago. But the timing, I think, has to do with the fact that a very hardline president in the United States is taken off. Is basically is going to be in office come January 20th. And the two countries are trying to also basically enhance their cooperation with regards to the politics of that moving forward.
Vyacheslav in Moscow, there are scant details of what this deal, this strategic partnership, will actually mean. But it's not as simple as saying that this is a military alliance. This is very wide-ranging. What does this mean for Russia going forward?
Well, I think that it is far away from any military cooperation because Lavrov said a very good word. He said that it is not against any third party. It is a bilateral agreement, bilateral conclusion to cooperate on economical and basically on economical stage. I think that it is not military agreement. It is not military goals are registered, but it is absolutely clear that Russia and Iran had military cooperation in Syria. And I remind that Iran come to Syria before Russian bases were arranged there in Hmeimim and Tartus. So we are very in good coordination during the last 10 years militarily, but we don't have any intention to invade Syria, to invade Lebanon, or to make anything that are against the activity of local governments in Syria, in Lebanon, in many other countries.
Let me bring in Marina here. Marina, almost this is inevitable. When you heavily sanction countries, they are going to get together and try and beat those sanctions. This was almost to be expected, wasn't it?
Well, as has already been said, this new agreement to be signed on the 17th of January is actually going to replace an agreement that has been signed by Russia and Iran in 2001. However, this new agreement is supposedly more extensive, and it doesn't have, as has been said, to be limited to a specific sphere of cooperation. If we look at Russia, Russia is exercising grand strategy, which means that it uses all instruments of statecraft, military, economic, diplomatic, and otherwise. And this new cooperation is to reflect the realities, the geopolitical realities. And I'm not just referring to the fact that Donald Trump and his administration might be going after Iran's nuclear program, but also the fact that both countries, as has already been stated, are heavily sanctioned, meaning that Russia had to look for new markets for its commodities. And that being said, if we look at the geographic position of Iran, Iran is a very important route to India, as Vyacheslav said. And we have another development in the region, meaning the cooperation of neighboring countries with Western countries, such as the strategic cooperation signed by Armenia and the United States. So it offers a geopolitical counterbalance. We have, on the one hand, we have Armenia and the United States, we have Azerbaijan and Turkey. So Russian-Iranian cooperation is another piece of the puzzle in order to create a balance of power.
Hassan, one of the things that's going to be concerning to the Americans, particularly Donald Trump, we talked about this last week, the idea that Donald Trump is a transactional president who will get a nuclear deal with Iran, but as long as US business interests come first and they invest in Iran and US business leads the way. Is this agreement going to affect that thinking?
Well, I think if it is to affect it, it will affect it positively because, as mentioned earlier, I think putting a lot of pressure, as you mentioned, on the two countries has driven them closer and closer, and they are in a position that they have never been in terms of their close ties because of U.S. and Western sanctions on the two countries. Now, the Donald Trump have to choose whether he wants to deal with these countries on a equal footing, reaching a deal as he likes to do, or to push them further closer. As mentioned also earlier, I think one accelerator of the relationship between Iran, not only with Russia, but also with China and other countries that are rivals of the United States and the collective West, I think have been the pressure put on Iran. The Iranians, of course, their ideal international approach is a balanced one, to have good ties with both West and East. But obviously, the West has cheated on Iran in the JCPOA and imposed maximum pressure sanctions on Iran. So it left it with no other choice but to have a closer ties with the East, basically. And ergo, the former President Tracy and his administration focusing on the look to the East. I think President Trump had to choose between pushing Iran further to that direction or have it have what it wants, a balanced relationship with the East and the West.
Vyacheslav, do you think this is a blueprint for a wider agreement, a similar one, but with other Arab countries, with other countries in the world? Do you think this is what the future holds for Russia?
I am sure that the result of American foreign policy is to bring Iran and Russia to one track, more close relations between them. Why? Because Iran, after Revolution 1979, was under very strict American sanctions. They said that something about 1,600 sanctions were put upon Iran during this period of time. From Russia, from within 3 last years, was received about 16,000 sanctions were put upon Russia during this period. So American and policy push Russia and Iran on one track to find way out from this unlawful sanctions, because it is one-side sanctions, only the United States and Western countries, not United Nations. So I think that it is productive. They proved these relations on economical base, found very productive way. Russia cooperate with Iran on nuclear issue, because Russia is a neighbor of Iran. If it is be afraid, it should be afraid first of all Russia. If it will be a nuclear bomb in Iran, or not the United States, who is on the distance of about 10,000 kilometers from Iran. So I think that our relations are more productive, more realistic, and more politically motivated. I think that these relations are
Vyacheslav, sorry, you made a very important point there, and I'd like to bring it to Marina in Munich. Marina, this idea that there is this agreement, there's a framework that's going to be in place, may well be applied to other countries. This has got to be very, very concerning to the traditional West, US, the UK, etc. Surely?
Well, that is correct. And the first agreement with North Korea was already disconcerting. Of course, we don't know what kind of scope this agreement will have. And we're also seeing Russia's foreign policy more and more directed to the Middle East and the Southwest Asia. And that is in line of what one of the geopolitical scientists in Russia, Alexander Dugin, has been writing about at the wake of the century. He was essentially saying that our friends are not in the West, our friends are in the East, and that's where our focus should be. And it looks like Russia is now following that line of thinking, especially with what is happening in the Middle East, what has recently happened in Syria. And this will, of course, be a great concern, same as BRICS. BRICS has also been a great concern, the BRICS bloc, which is expanding, and to which Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian also traveled to the BRICS summit last year. This will be disconcerting because this is a tectonic shift in global power relations. And so what we're seeing here essentially is an attempt to formalize a power bloc, not just through economic outlets, but also through different strategic cooperations, which also include the military sphere, which will certainly be very important for other countries, such as Iran, such as perhaps Vietnam, because Russia is testing a lot of technology in Ukraine and is working a lot on R&D. So new markets are being opening up. As US influence wanes in this region, Russia can then step in.
Hassan, the words strategic, the words partnership are the two key words that have been pushed, that this is something that's beneficial to both Russia and to Iran. But there must have been a moment during the negotiation of this treaty, there must have been a little bit of a fear that Iran could well become a client state of Russia. That must have happened.
I was listening to Iran's ambassador to Russia who addressed this issue. I think there has been a debate that, well, you can't, the Iranians were talking and still are talking about the depth and breadth of this framework agreement, whether it touches upon Iran's sovereignty or not. The ambassador was keen to note that it respects the sovereignty of the two nations. It actually enhances their capability to strengthen their basically independence vis-a-vis an imposing West, and that the Iranians will not sign a deal that would harm Iran's independence in any form or shape. Of course, that's the official line. Debates are ongoing until everything is clear and the agreement is out. These debates are to be continued. Of course, as you said, history weighs in. Lots of things have happened in the past that the Iranians are concerned with, but I think this agreement has the potential to move the two countries beyond that history if it is to be successful in basically enhancing specifically the economic and defensive and security ties between the two countries and the trade routes that are, I think, the most important part for the Iranians at this point.
Vyacheslav, it all sounds like a very good idea for Moscow and for Tehran on paper to strengthen these ties to try and combat American sanctions, American influence in the region as well. But America just simply could impose more sanctions. It could scupper this deal. Is this deal strong enough to withstand an American response?
I think that Russia, during the last 3 years, proved to Americans, proved to Europeans, that no sanctions are working. They are working against the interests of Europe. European countries at all. They're ruining European economy, but not Russian economy. Russia benefits from these sanctions. First of all, it returns production inside, and many branches of industry that were destroyed during the last 30 years after the destruction of the Soviet Union now are recovering as a result of American policy. So in some way we can thank American policy of sanctions policy against Russia, because it proved to Russian liberal circles, ruling circles, that there is no way to collaborate with the West on the same way that it was collaboration we saw during the last 30 years. So I think that Russian economy is healthy. Russian economy now is developing, and productive and production is on a very good level. I think that it is a good signal for all other countries to watch what means independent development of economy, Russian economy.
Marina, this is a good thing, says our guest in Moscow, for Russia, and a sign of failure of American foreign policy. Is it as simple as that?
Well, of course, it's not as simple as that. And we also have to admit, yes, it is true that Russia already in 2013 has introduced a policy which would make the defense industry independent from imports from abroad. But there are still branches that are suffering, and it will take time to develop those branches, such as microelectronics. And this has been acknowledged, hence the reason for the need to import dual-use components. But that being said, we have seen that Russia has managed, maybe at a higher cost and at more expensive prices, to substitute that. The problem here is the entire tendency where the world is going, and to what extent Donald Trump's administration will be focusing on specific regions, because we know that China will be one of the primary targets. He also indicated Iran, but can the US foreign policy cover all bases? And I think that will be the fundamental question, where the focus will be. And I think that countries like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and also countries like Afghanistan, which are slowly coming on board, will be watching very closely in order to align their foreign policies and to form those strategic partnerships, because they are perceiving the United States and the United States hegemony to be in decline. They're perceiving the NATO military capabilities to be in decline, specifically after what has happened in Ukraine with the supply of weapons and testing different weapon systems in Ukraine, which were then made useless by Russian systems of electronic warfare, for instance. So I think that we have to be careful coming to quick conclusions in terms of where the American policy will lead, because I think it is too early. We're seeing early symptoms of where it is going. And of course, we also have Syria with a huge question mark. What is going to happen in Syria? And it will be an important geostrategic player in the region. And I think that that will be another determinant factor for the stability of the region in terms of what happens there. And of course, what will happen in Lebanon, what will happen with Israel, and how the American policy will address those issues.
Hassan, I want to come to you. We are running out of time, so if you can make this a kind of a quick-ish answer. What are the red lines for Tehran in this new relationship? What will Tehran not do if Russia asks? Where are the kind of borders here?
Well, I think we should wait for the agreement to be out to decide what that. I think the Iranians, of course, don't want a military alliance as such. They basically are in for a broader form of cooperation with the Russians that can help them withstand the sanctions and be more creative in basically pushing back against Western impositions in terms of economics and politics and international relations. That's for sure. But Iran being used as a military partner against other countries, I think that's out of the options for Iran, and I think for Russia as well. The two countries have made it clear that they are not eyeing a alliance against a third party. But of course, other parties have their concerns and they are voicing them.
Vyacheslav, just very quickly, are there any red lines for Moscow? How much support is Tehran going to get, and is it going to be blind support?
Well, I think that for Tehran and for Moscow, its main task is to keep their economy working independently. Because economical independence, this is a political independence too. So Iran and Russia are independent states, members of the United Nations organizations. I think that this way they chose during cooperation in economical field, beneficial for Tehran or for Moscow too. So I think that our relations will be helping to reach independent development goals, and in the way of making a new order in new world, 21st century. BRICS, this is the way stated by Russia, BRICS states, and Iran, who joined BRICS companies of BRICS organization for helping for developing economical development, helps the economical development for all countries. I think it is we chose the right way for development, for future, nearest future. For this way, this is a new world order, what we look at it for nearest future.
I want to thank all our guests, Hassan Ahmadian, Vyacheslav Matuzov and Marina, Miron. And a thank you too for watching. Now you can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And you can also join the conversation on X and Instagram. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Imran Khan, and the entire team here, bye for now.